No, I don't know if that was any good. My Colin Coward impersonation. You are not listening to the herd. Far from it. Although, hat tip to
Colin,
our
what do you
lovely.
think about the Celtics over the Heat in 3 games? I got minus 350 odds. Put it down right now.
Well, Matt, it's kind of like when you first get married, and you go through these stages of of a life that is completely new to you. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, it's worst to first. That's where you're at. Don't get us wrong. I know we threw our listeners maybe for a little bit of a curveball there. You are listening to W2F, Bryan Stewart back with Matt, and hopefully everyone here has already heard the show from last week. Pig and the Fish, Bass Daddy, and Pork Johnson were live and revived as only they can. Those two get together, it is magic, and I thoroughly enjoyed that show. After you get done with this one, make sure you go back, if you haven't already, see what they had to say about the NFL offseason so far. And in this episode, Matt, we, of course, we have the staple segments. We have Dick of the Week at the end of the show. We are going to do a worst to first segment that is based around TV show characters. Can't wait for that. But sticking true to our roots, we're going to start with a little bit of football discussion because there's a little bit going on. This is just one that's been in my craw for a couple weeks now, really, for various reasons. And that's the landscape of quarterbacks and contract extensions. We saw Jalen Hurts get his. We saw Lamar Jackson follow that. And now it's kind of like, okay, we know Burrow is on deck with Herbert. Not really sure who's going to go first there. You have some rumors about Mahomes possibly after all that, for what that's worth. And let me just preface it with this, Matt. I saw things like Joe Burrow. He says, I want to make sure that the team around me is good. Like he knows how important that is. Sounds, saying the right things, saying the types of things that Bengals fans are going to want to hear. The ultimate truth of the story will come in the details with exactly how much he's paid and how it's broken down in the cap. Jalen Hurts, he kind of did that as far as taking care of the team, at least in terms of cap numbers. And so all that to say, do you have any thoughts? Because I feel like this is what's dominating the headlines right now in a slow period, as far as any of the stuff you've heard. Because it's kind of like pick your headline. All these different guys, we're just waiting for the next shoe to drop, and the money is flowing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, see, we're shocked and we're not shocked every time a new contract comes out, right? Because it's always astronomical, through the roof, right? And you actually put me onto it, not to promote another podcast or anything like that, but Mahomes has now slipped down to, I don't know, soon enough he'll be probably beyond 10 or something in the highest paid quarterback category. And Mike Florio, your favorite over there in PFT land, was saying, this is embarrassing on the Chiefs' behalf, on Patrick's behalf. He's this great player, arguably the greatest of all time, and he's getting paid this cheaply. I don't know, man. Are we getting a little out of hand with just these contracts a little bit? I mean, I get it. Yeah, he probably deserves to be the highest paid player of all time, but the dude has a $500 million contract. You know what I'm saying? Like, what point does it get a little bit just crazy, And I hope Patrick, he deserves all the money in the world, but I mean, he's going to make more money if he wins in the long run, I think. So I don't know. What do you think? What's your take? Do you think it's getting out of hand, or is this just par for the course?
I don't get the Mahomes part. That is really where I was leading towards, and it feels like Florio. It feels like he's manufactured the whole thing. It just kind of came out of nowhere. He was the only one on any sort of platform I could see mentioning the idea of Mahomes needing to get his deal reworked, and it was almost like, if you watch him and listen to him enough, you just kind of know how he works. And it felt like his way of trying to get others to talk about a situation that didn't necessarily need to be discussed, but I think
Mm-hmm.
from his perspective, it's, hey, we don't want the Chiefs to continue to have perhaps advantages that make the product not as parity heavy like they prefer. They want to see other teams in the Super Bowl from time to time, winning Super Bowls. And if his contract doesn't get adjusted, it's only going to make it harder to get them out, right? But then you've got Mahomes last year. He more or less said, like, he understands. Like, he's not an idiot. He knew what he was doing. He knew that in a sense he's doing the team a favor, and that's okay. And look, he's looking pretty smart right now. He's getting the best of all worlds, winning another championship, getting more endorsements. I saw he's now working with T-Mobile, I believe it was, big company. Whatever money he left off that table from the Chiefs, he's recouping just by being such a superstar.
Mm-hmm.
And so that part, it's rubbed me the wrong way. It's been annoying. If they decide to adjust the deal, fine, he's earned it. To me, that doesn't really make sense based on what's been said so far. I don't know why you do a 10-year deal just to adjust it in the first year of the actual extension. To me, that would just defeat the whole purpose. It would make the team look dumb. Why'd you give him a 10-year deal if you weren't even going to let it really trigger, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's that part. When we talk about the other guys, I feel like naturally Herbert's going to have to go first because he has less on the resume. So, he's going to get a little more than Lamar got, being the highest paid per year right now. And then after that, Burrow can adjust as he sees fit. We know that he's clearly accomplished more in terms of team success, maybe not statistically. And so that's where, while I don't think the Mahomes thing has a whole lot of credibility to it, so I just think we'll see, okay, Herbert's going to get broke off. Burrow, before the season, becomes the highest paid quarterback. And Patrick will, deal with Florio chirping, but I just don't feel like he's going to be in a rush to. Maybe that's wishful thinking, but I don't think he's in a rush to adjust it yet.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. You actually make a decent point on Florio's behalf. I never thought about this. I will give this guy his flowers, right? If he is out here trying to make moves to take down the Chiefs single-handedly and somehow got it done, kind of respect that in a weird way, actually, because I don't see how else it's going to get done, really. I mean, I think it's going to make it a lot more difficult on the Chiefs if they do that. So kudos to him. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but I guess props to him for trying.
All these teams, not just Kansas City, but the teams that have their quarterback who they believe is going to be there for 10 years or more, they're going to have financial decisions to make that don't just affect them now or in the next 2 or 3 years, but for up to 15 years. Because, to be honest, Matt, if I was running the Chiefs, for example, I would sacrifice window 5 years or so after he's gone. I would keep pushing that money down the road, understanding that it might lead to some tough years, just to have a better chance to win now, because
Mm-hmm.
you don't even know who the quarterback's going to be when he's gone. Odds are they're not even going to be very good, let alone definitely not going to be at that level. So that's where those teams, if they got smart people in place, they'll finagle the cap and make it okay right now. But it's a lot easier to do when like, I want that guy for 10 years. There aren't a lot of teams in that spot. You could argue that there really are none. Maybe the Bengals qualify just with the way that organization's ran financially. But um, anyway, nonetheless, we'll see. These guys make the league run. They are the most pivotal position in all of sports, and they're going to be paid as such. It's just a matter of time.
Fair points. Fair points made there. Very interesting to
Okay.
see how it plays.
Another topic, the schedule came out. Now, we'll have time to dive into more of the details as the summer goes on, but the Black Friday game, first time ever, New York Jets hosting a game at, I believe, 2 p.m. Central Time on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. And what is fascinating about this is I saw a report that the Jets are pushing to become a annual host of this Black Friday game. They want it to
Mm.
be their Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving, Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving, hosting that game every single year. Matt, what are your thoughts on that? Do you support the idea, or do you think that this is going to be a huge mistake if the NFL follows through?
All right, so it's kind of two pronged. I think it's a great idea from the Jets' perspective, right? Just because on pure value, right? We live in an attention based economy where if you have the attention, you have the power. So I get it. I get wanting to be on the screen every Black Friday. You know, that's got to be worth something. That probably actually boosts the bottom dollar for the valuation of the team. I personally hope the NFL doesn't do that with the Jets because I mean, yeah, this year it's going to be kind of exciting to watch them, but I mean, no offense to the fan base or the organization. I just don't personally love watching the Jets, and they don't really have the track record to prove that they're going to be able to put out a great product year after year. Because, I mean, that's kind of the thing that we've ran into with the Detroit Lions. They get to play on Thanksgiving all the time, and shoot, they're just now kind of a contending ish type of team. So, personally, I hope they don't choose them if they're going to do a team that way, but I definitely get where they're coming from. I don't know if you have any thoughts on the matter.
The only redeeming quality that I found thinking it through was like New York. Black Friday is this shopping extravaganza. New York is probably as good of a market as the NFL could put boots on the ground in for that day. But I am thoroughly against the idea of the Jets becoming the staple team. Um, and don't get me wrong, I've said on this show before, I actually kind of like the Lions being in that spot. I kind of
Mm-hmm.
like the Cowboys being in that spot. It's just what I'm used to. I mean, it's been that way since before I was born, so you don't know any better. But once you're at this age and you understand the stakes, it's like, no, let's learn from give fans the best of both worlds. There are some fans out there who wish the Lions and Cowboys weren't on every Thanksgiving. Okay, they may not get their wish of that changing, but we don't have to add on to the fact with the Jets becoming an annual um, team that gets to host this game. Now, on the flip side, you could say, look, year in and year out, the Thanksgiving game is the highlight of Detroit and Dallas football seasons. Neither franchise very well seasoned lately in winning when it counts the most. The Lions never have. And so for the Jets, they kind of fall into that same category with those two franchises where that could be their peak year in and year out, even when they're going 5-12 or 4-13 with regularity. So in that sense, I'll understand. Doesn't mean I have to like it, but I'll understand.
I I just thought of something, Brian, as you were speaking there. Conspiracy theorist, right here. Conspiracy theory watch. Hear me out. What if the likes of big online retailers like Amazon, businesses of the sort, right? They're wanting to make the push to New York because I imagine New York is a massive retail outlet type of place, right? And Black Friday is going to be a massive day for that. Well, guess what? What if there's a lot of New Yorkers, New York fans, etc. They're busy.
Yeah.
They're busy watching the game. So you know what they got to do? They got to go scrolling on Amazon, do the little one-click buy, prime shipping, please and thank you. I don't know, man. Put this on the Alex Jones show.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, that game I think is being streamed on Amazon. Maybe not. Maybe it's not Amazon, but I think it is on Amazon.
Dude, if
And if
that's
that
it,
was
I'm 100% on this theory. Oh, God, we just broke something big there.
that's the type of stuff that makes them the beast that they are, if they did have that type of foresight.
Hmm.
And yeah, because a large chunk of America has an even more incentive to stay home and not go shopping,
Mm-hmm.
but they can just do it right there on their computer, their phone, whatever. Uh, it's a
Absolutely. Who are they
thought.
playing in this game? Do you know?
Gosh, I knew earlier. I didn't write it down. Not positive. Should know. Take full responsibility for that. But
I should have. It's probably Minneapolis, man. It's probably Minnesota. We're taking Mall of America out of the equation, too.
yeah, so it's kind of driving me nuts, really. But I really can't think of who it was. Must not have been a huge call. I know
Matchup,
it
yeah.
wasn't major component. No.
I mean, they're just going to throw something out there just for people. They're going to sink their teeth into it, right? It doesn't matter who it is, really.
Yeah, no doubt. NFL's king. Okay, it's that time. Worst to first segment mentioned at the start of the show. It is around TV show characters. So, quite simply, we are going to go 1 through 4. 1 being our favorite character of all time. Second, at least in my opinion, meaning, very, very good. Third, fine, a little below average. And then lastly, our most hated TV characters. And that's where I start with you, Matt. Who is that for you? Because I know ours aren't going to match up. I know you didn't watch the show that I have in that slot. But
Very interesting. Man, this was probably the hardest worst to first that we've had yet, but I've thoroughly enjoyed doing it. I've got a lot of options on my list here. Bryan, starting with the worst TV character of all time, of course it's going to lend itself to a little bit of recency bias. Bryan, I'm picking captain of the basketball team, Jason Harvey from Stranger Things, man. That guy was a total dickbag,
yeah.
right? I mean, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the show, earmuff it real fast. He gets split in half when Vecna, I don't know, he opens up the earth or whatever. I don't know what the hell actually happens. But Jason Harvey, total dick, no redeeming qualities whatsoever. I get he's trying to protect Christy and get revenge for her death. Again, spoiler alert, sorry about that. We'll put a disclaimer on this. And total dick. I don't know. That's my worst for now.
I actually saw that the real actor came out a week or two ago, said he received death threats over his role. I think
Really?
that's like a tip, like, well done, man. You clearly nailed the role when you've got people threatening your life over it. And yeah, very unlikable character, no doubt. And he could have definitely made the list, no problem. And I'm sure he is on the list for others. And the thing is, with a guy like that and a guy like I have on mine, there's only one spot for them. They can only be a worse character. Nobody out there's like, yeah, I really like this guy in the 3 slot. No, they're just the scum of the earth. And I hope he was well paid, because apparently it came at a price to be that guy on what is a very good show and will be mentioned later on in my list.
Oh.
Tease. Cock tease.
Very good. Very smart. Good.
Now, my word comes from Game of Thrones, and that is King Joffrey. Joffrey. Those who have watched that show, I can't imagine you watch that and can pick anybody else. I really don't know how or who it would be. This dude, kid, say, and I'm gonna try to avoid this. But let's just put it this way: if you're listening, you're gonna get spoiled. There's no way around it. We're not a TV show podcast, so you're just gonna have to deal with it. But yeah, he meets that grisly demise that you root for over and over, and it was like, man, it just felt like it was never gonna happen. It finally did occur, but that little shit.
Damn it! I was gonna watch that show.
I'm
playing. Probably not. Continue.
Too much commitment. He just the quintessential dog shit king, and basically made life hell for seemingly everyone who crossed his path. And so I'll leave it at that, because you can go on and on.
Is that the little albino fella? Little albino looking dude?
Yeah, I don't know if he was actually albino, but yeah, he was definitely blonde hair, blue eye.
I saw, the only reason I know who he is, I saw this, I don't know if it was like a Looper clip or what, but it was talking about actors who were no longer acting anymore. And apparently that fella, he did that role, and then for whatever reason he got burned out on acting, and he doesn't act anymore. He works like a regular job somewhere. It's kind of wild to think about.
See, that's kind of sad, because I almost wonder if it's because of the character he played. If I watched myself do that stuff, I'd probably say, you know what, I need to check out too.
That's a good point, man. If the other guy's getting death threats, I'm sure this fella is. Game of Thrones was one of the big. I mean, I guess they're both
worldwide.
Shows all the time.
I mean, Stranger Things worldwide too, but yeah, I think Game of Thrones was probably even a little more popular in terms of when it was at its peak, and he was part of that shithead, albeit. Okay,
fascinating.
Let me go ahead and put my number 3 and because it comes from the show you previously mentioned, Stranger
Mm.
Things. So, I put him in my third slot. To me, this is a character who I understand why he's there. I understand his purpose, but I just don't really care for him. Doesn't do anything for me. Never once really been like, yeah, I'm really enjoying what I'm seeing from this particular individual. And that's Will Byers. Will Byers,
Oh.
arguably, depends who you ask, one of the 2 or 3 top characters of the whole show. He was kind of the centerpiece for season 1. Some say he will be for the season 5. And it's just, I guess I got kind of annoyed with the first season. Look, I mean, it's not going to sound great, but you get about halfway through and you think, stop looking for him. He's gone. He's not coming back. And it got a little annoying just to see people like continue to go through these extreme crazy measures. And yeah, it worked out in the end. It's of course a fictional TV show, but ever since then it's just kind of been turned off the Byers. um, he's had his moments, I guess, where things were better that he's actually on the show. But now I feel like it's descending again, and I feel like they're going to really ruin it here on this last go around. Anxious to see Will
Mm.
Byers, man. He's just, yeah, I could do without.
I actually don't hate that because yeah, he is definitely kind of a whiner type character.
Yeah,
Not to knock that. This is an emotional, positive podcast, right? You can feel what you want or whatever. But yeah, he's always like seems like he's whining or screeching for some reason. At least in my mind, I don't know if that's just like some sort of misconception. And the last season just turns out, it's just kind of him like jealous of 11 because he wants Mike. It's kind of interesting. I'd be curious to see how that plays out. I definitely don't blame you for your answer. Will Byers is kind of annoying. Good point. Good point, man. Yeah, they should have just let him go. And let's not, maybe what's his brother's name again? I can't think what it is. Jonathan. Jonathan.
John.
I don't know how old that fella is in real life or anything like that, but man, dealing with Will stuff and Nancy stuff, man, he looked like he'd been through the ringer in the last season. He's had a tough go, but so I'm gonna blame that on that.
Chain smoker, no doubt.
Is that what it is?
Probably. And not to stray too far away, but I believe he is actually dating Nancy in real life. And so
Really?
who knows? Who knows what that entails and how that's impacting his
Well, that gives me some redemption on this podcast, Brian. As you mentioned before, I was not pleased with the fact that 11 is not with Mike anymore. And people on the internet are like, dude, what are you doing? Get over it, man. Jake Bon Jovi's got it now. I'm like, well, yeah, obviously, but in my mind, come on. It just seems fun that 11 and Mike end up together in real life. God.
Yeah. Well, and in one instance, it was the case.
Haters, bro. Haters.
Who hit the 3-bagger for you?
All right, Brian. I was so torn, and I was feeling kind of on the positive. So I almost turned my top 3 spots as almost a bronze, silver, gold type of situation. I know it's not really exactly how we do this here, but I was having a hard time giving a guy like a mid tier guy. Which if I did, I would probably throw it to Ted Mosby out of How I Met Your Mother, because people obviously feeling different about him. He's in the pursuit of the one, the only love of his life, but in the process, he was very dismissive of other girls and treating them and their feelings in that whole regard. I'm not going to get into that, but that's who would probably fit in that category if I were to do it the right way. The right way, Brian, third place, my favorite character of all time, Brian, George Costanza out of
Wait,
Seinfeld.
your favorite of all time?
Yeah, I told you. I kind of turned it into third favorite of all time. Kind of took bronze, second.
I was just confused. I didn't know if you meant to put him first, but yeah, okay, makes sense.
No, yeah, I didn't fumble the bag totally there. But yeah, Costanza, man. Love that character. We can
Yeah.
learn a lot from him, navigating society and maybe enacting a few sociopathic tendencies. It doesn't really make a difference. But Costanza, you could learn a lot.
One of those shows that everyone has saw at some point, at
Mm-hmm.
least in the U.S. I can't speak for the other countries out there, but because it's been on so many different channels, and you walk by and it's like on for 10 straight hours, 30-minute episodes, boom, boom, boom. I think you can still find it on at least one of the major streaming platforms. I don't know if it's
Netflix.
Netflix. Is it Netflix still? That's great. In case you ever want to go back down that hole, and you would, because Costanza, yeah, on a short list, but some great characters on Seinfeld. Personally,
Million
I'm a
percent.
fan of Kramer.
Mm.
Off the field stuff, set that aside. But just talking about the show itself, and then you can never go wrong with Jerry either. But
Mm-hmm. So
okay,
many good ones on there.
that is that is well. Go ahead with your two. Keep
All
it
right,
hot.
Brian, this one may be controversial to a lot of folks, but this is one of the first TV shows that I can remember myself really getting into. Just enthralled, had to see what happened next. And don't get me wrong, it lost a little bit of its luster as the seasons went, but I felt like it redeemed itself in the past couple years with a little comeback season, Brian. Dexter Morgan. I like Dexter, man, but I mean, obviously you can't put him
Mm.
top spot. He is killing people, but fortunately for us and the world at large, he's killing people that deserve it. And you know what? I'm not going to say that the world maybe needs a little bit more of that, but I think.
But you did just say that.
All right, touche, touche.
Hey,
I
I
can't
still
take it
haven't
back.
watched the new one. I still haven't watched the new season, and I don't know
Oh,
why, but just keep that in mind, okay?
okay. I'm not going to spoil it, but I had the same issue, right? Because the last little bit left a sour taste in your mouth. You're like, that just kind of straight up sucked. But you know what? They actually returned to form, and I was like, all right, pretty dang good. So yeah, I say recommend it. Dexter Morgan, man.
They had a hell of a hole to write themselves out of, so now you've got me. You've got me very interested, and that's all. Yeah, I need a new show, so I will look into that
Quick 10
because
episodes, you're good.
those first seasons, first couple, whatever it was, they were tough to beat. If you're into any sort of crime, I don't even know if it's so unique. There's no other show like Dexter, and it's because of that character specifically. So I'm sure you're not the only one out there listening who might, if they weren't thinking of it before, they certainly are now, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Dexter.
Great anti-hero.
Well, in my number two spot, and sometimes when we do these lists, my number two is, it's good. But in this case, it's very good, and it
Mm.
very easily could be my number one, but I had to get it in here somehow, fit it in some way. So it's like that 12-5 wild card team that could make the run all the way, right? And that is Stevie Janowski. Stevie
Oh God,
Janowski
dang!
from Eastbound and Down. Yeah, yeah.
I've totally forgot about this show. God
Steve
dang, dude.
is, and don't get me wrong, depending on the day, I'd probably tell you Kenny's my favorite character. But some days it's Stevie, and today's one of those. And that dude right there, just one of these rare individuals who can say nothing and just make you laugh by being on the camera, especially in the way that they made him appear at times. But then he opens his mouth and he's got this perfect, albeit flawed, voice um, that just fit him like a glove. I mean, one of those castings that they couldn't have done better. There's no possible way they could have cast that character any better than they did. Um, and so this is my shout to everybody out there listening who hasn't seen Eastbound and Down. You have got to get on that yesterday, if for no other reason than Stevie Janowski. Matt, he had so many moments, crowning moments that I can think of. And it felt like not an episode went by where you didn't want to see more of Stevie. He sucks that Mexican gal up. Seemed like from season one through, what was it, season four? I think they had 4 or 5. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think five maybe.
And everything around it and in between, just um, 10 out of 10, as good as it could be in the comedy field. So this is my shout out and salute to Stevie Janowski.
God, that was great. Gosh, man, I totally kind of spaced on that segment of shows, which is arguably the best comedies of all time, at least up in the running. So, wow, fantastic. You know what we should try to do, Brian? I don't know how we get in contact with Stevie. Let's try to get him on this program. We'll just have an Eastbound and
Oh
Down
yeah,
conversation. That would be amazing. Manifesting it right now.
yeah, all day long, no
Beautiful.
doubt.
Great choice. Great choice.
Well, this number one spot I worry a little bit. I could see us possibly matching up here, but
Mm-hmm.
even if that's the case, I'm gonna let you go first, and we'll just have to see how
You
it
can
plays.
go ahead. You can go ahead because I've got some good pivots if need be.
Sure.
I think I know where you're going with it, so just feel free.
Well, my number one greatest TV character of all time is Michael Scarn. Michael Scarn from The Office, otherly known as Michael Scott, primarily played by
For a
Steve
second, I
Carell.
thought I was like, are you taking just the segmentation of Scarn? And what is it? Threat Level Midnight? Yeah,
Yeah, I
Michael
mean,
Scarn.
if you wanted to say that it was a better adaptation of an already elite character, I wouldn't argue with you too much. But I'm pulling them together. I am. Uh, Michael, and I'm sensitive to this one in this moment because I just got off of flights to and from Italy, and along those flights, both ways, watched numerous episodes of The Office, and it's one of those shows. It never gets old. I can watch it any day, anytime, um, and laugh just like it's the first time I ever saw it. And a lot of that's Michael in those first 5 or 6 seasons that he's a part of. I mentioned earlier how well casted Stevie was. That whole show, that's what made it work, right? Every
Mm-hmm.
single person was perfect. I mean, there wasn't really one that you just thought, man, they screwed that up. They were all grand slams, none bigger than Michael, who was uh, just right up my alley in terms of sense of humor, in terms of how he not only was able to be that funny, uh, I don't want to say prototypical boss because he's definitely not normal, but ideal. Like we all would want to work for a guy like that uh,
Mm-hmm.
in the 9 to 5, right? Just like they did at the office. But then on the flip side, they did such a good job of making him like taken seriously with the relationship stuff and how that finally came together. You know, he goes from Jan, the bitch that he eventually hates, and then he ends up with Holly, and they go their separate paths and come back together. It's just perfectly done. And honestly, even though it was a bummer to see him go early, looking back, it almost like was maybe for the best because you had that chance to really miss Michael Scarn and appreciate where he went, right? So number one, best character ever. And it's not by a lot, but it is by a little.
That's actually just a fantastic choice. That was mine as well. Of course, I mean, it's it's hard to argue it, right? Like you said, the show was fantastic and probably the best of all time in my opinion. It was able to
Mhm.
maneuver the comedic landscape as good or better than almost any show of all time, while also being able to tie you in with those like actual like emotional storylines. You actually care about these characters in a show that you think would not be possible. So kudos to everyone that worked on that, acted in it, and you mentioned it perfectly casted. It truly was. And if you look at the old auditions on the people that they just had absolute killers auditioning for this, and they didn't get the roles, like Seth Rogen going to be Dwight. Thank goodness that didn't happen, but who could imagine that, like saying that out loud? Bob Odenkirk also trying to be Michael. And I think there's even more that I'm missing right off the top of my head, but
Sure.
fantastic. I think the stars aligned for that one. I don't know. God executive produced that show or something because that's perfect answer. Perfect answer.
It won't be beat.
No, and also on my short list here, I actually had some honorable mentions. There was like 3 or 4 characters from The Office that I were in my running. Really, like Kevin Malone, Dwight Schrute, Jim Halpert. Those two kind of a combo. That's why I couldn't differentiate because like they kind of go perfect with each other. And then Michael, of course, and fantastic, just fantastic. Some more honorable mentions I want to mention before I get into my new undisputed number one favorite character of all time. Bryan, Frank Costanza, Jerry Stiller's characters in The King of Queens and Seinfeld. Basically the same guy,
Mm.
always angry, just yelling outlandish stuff, but amazing. Fantastic. He deserves a
Mm-hmm.
spot. I don't know if you ever watched Parks and Rec. I think Ron Swanson deserves a nod as well. I think he says what a lot of us are thinking. He's a big fan of breakfast foods like myself. Ron Swanson
Yeah.
deserves a slot. And then I don't know if people feel the same way about the show as I do. I actually it was my favorite show for a long time, and probably still in the running. I just haven't watched in years. Sons of Anarchy, Jax Teller, fantastic anti-hero. And yeah, for fans of that show, I actually ran into Bobby in Nashville not too long ago. He was pretty accurate to the character in real life. He was like, oh, yeah. I was like, all right. I was like, all right, this guy may want to chop my eyeball out. But fans of the show will get what I'm talking about. So with my new number one, Brian, I'm taking inspiration from your Stevie Janowski. And I'm not going to go with Kenny Powers because that's a great character, but and arguably deserves to be in that spot. I'm going to switch it over to the Righteous Gemstones, the current greatest show going on right now. Give me Jesse Gemstone at the top, Brian. We all probably know at least one kind of, not so straight up pastor in the world. And we've seen this mega church thing kind of in the real life landscape. So I think that's what makes it so great. Jesse Gemstone, Brian, and there's so many characters in that as well that I think could deserve a nod, but give me Gemstone.
That is probably the best show going right now. And another one where there are other characters within the show who you could say maybe not the best, but like very good.
Judy.
Yeah, Judy.
Keith,
honestly,
Keith.
Dude, Judy's probably the one that I get along with Jesse the most laughs. Well done there.
And then third for me is probably Keith or Keith. I don't know exactly what it is. I love that character so much.
Yeah. I don't know.
I know. It's like I always wrestle with it every episode. I'm like, say Keith. I don't know, but fantastic show. Recommend that to anybody that hasn't seen it. And if you have seen it, watch it again. New season coming out next month.
Is it this month?
June. Yeah, I think June.
No way.
Yeah, like
Oh, damn.
Yeah, get ready. Strap in. Like 23rd or 20th. It's going to be great. I watched the trailer. Check it out on HBO Max. It's going to be another fire season.
I'm going to have to pass that message along to Grace, what some listeners know, my wife Grace, because if she is in whatever mood, it's going to get better. She loves that show too. I know it gave me a boost. Great little punctuation to the segment because I had no idea that it was coming in so hot. And HBO Max, yeah, I think I've said that 4 times, but just in case they missed it, that's where you can get that, as well as
no free shout-outs.
Eastbound and Downs on there. I don't know.
Yep, yeah. All the Danny McBride stuff's on there, the TV shows at least. So you can't really beat that stuff, really. Right, before we get off topic here, as I was writing this down, I had a little fun side segment planned, Brian. Let's play a quick lightning round of this or that. I'm going to take two characters from a singular TV show, and I'm going to give you the option, and you got to pick one, right? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Brian, the first, this or that, Scooby-Doo or Shaggy?
Got to go with the dog. He's the GOAT.
Fair. You kind of spoiled this next one. George or Kramer?
Kramer. Yep.
Good. So we know how we feel about Michael. Jim or Dwight?
Ooh. I think Dwight adds more comedic value. I'll take him.
Great answer. Stranger Things, Dustin or Steve? 2 of my favorites.
Steve. Dustin.
Wow.
Dustin in the first season when he was still like little and looked like a doll. As he's gotten bigger, the most recent season, he's kind of lost that
charm
that he had. Yeah. Now he's just kind of a big ugly. But at least he's like a well-paid one.
He's like a seasoned pug, you know what I'm saying? They just kind of they love him all the way through, but a lot of people are like, not as much when they get older. Brian, keep this football themed. Friday Night Lights. I don't even know if you watched this show. If you didn't, shame on you. Matt Saracen or Tim Riggins?
Bonk. I did not watch the whole thing. I really didn't. And that's crazy. But being a football podcast, being a huge football fan, I know that's crazy, but it's just one of them shows where, and I think there are listeners who will relate to this, like, you're in a household where everybody else in the household is so far ahead on the show that it feels like work to catch up on it yourself. You feel like, I've got to always watch it in private, or, it's just like a mountain to climb. And that applied to more than just that show. You mentioned Sons of Anarchy earlier. Same thing. You fall behind so far, you just feel like, shit, I can't overcome this deficit. And even though it's totally fabricated in my mind, that's how I viewed it then, and it never changed. I never caught up. But I loosely remember the characters that you mentioned. You said Searson and Landry. Was it Landry?
Not Landry, but still Landry in the mix. I was going to say Riggins as well. Yeah, Saracen,
Oh,
is the artsy fartsy quarterback. Landry's
I'll take
obviously
Riggins out of that. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have threw Landry. That would have been a little bit closer of a call. No one's going to pick Saracen now that I think about it.
No.
Julie, I love you. Dad, just go back to Iraq.
Well, I don't have
just
a
go
whole
back.
list of this or that's for you, but I got one. Just
Okay.
Well, yeah, let's just say one, and that is Kevin or Stanley.
Oh, golly, that is very difficult, very tough. I'm going to take Kevin because I love Kevin. I have one of those little goofy Funko Pops where he's holding the chili. I just love that scene so much. And just iconic, really. Kevin all day. Stanley's great, but Kevin is elite as a supporting cast gets.
Truly is. I don't. I'm just in the mood to watch that show now, but it's gonna have to wait because we're not done here. We've got Dick of the Week. Dick of the Week is here. I've missed this segment. I wasn't here on the last show, so I got some ammunition built up that I'm excited to get to, but not until you do yours first, Matt. Who is your Dick of the Week?
Man, this was a struggle for Dick of the Week this week because I haven't, I can't believe it in the current state of the world and America as a whole. There's dicks emerging every single day, right? But there wasn't a ton in the past week or so. I mean, I guess we could have said you for missing a fantastic Pig in the Fish episode and gallivanting in Italy and then recruiting football players to play American football. I don't know what you were doing. I don't know. I don't need to know. But that's regardless here or there. I'm not going to give it to you this time, Bryan. This is totally biased, all right? Philadelphia fans, don't get upset at me. Taylor Swift fans, don't get upset at me. Big Taylor Swift guy here. She came out the other day at her show at the Link, Bryan, and said she, in fact, was a Philadelphia Eagles fan. And I shouldn't be surprised. She's from Pennsylvania. I understand that. But, it still hurts a little bit. Dick of the Week, Taylor Swift. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure she's upset Swifties over some other stuff here recently anyway, so maybe that won't be too rough on me.
Hey, I'm okay with it. If they had won against the Chiefs, we got a different conversation. I would be bitter. But them being like, that's one of those things like Hy-Vee in Kansas City. I saw they have milk out of a glass, and the glass says Eagle Tears. And it's literally a special milk that some brand released in Kansas City to accommodate the Super Bowl, obviously the fact that the Eagles lost. And I'm like, okay, it's cool and all, but like, I feel like they didn't really pick a fight with us, I would rather it be Bengal Tears. Honest to God, I would, because there's that rivalry, that hatred there. The Eagles, I like Kelsey so much, Jason, and so even though it's disappointing that she's an Eagles fan, I'm not mad at her. Let's put it that way.
All right. I think that's fair. I mean, I understand I'm grasping at straws here. Like I said, it was a rough week for Dix. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm just giving it to her. I don't even hate the Eagles either. But definitely don't hate Taylor. So, yeah, I don't know. Like Dick of the Week, but not totally Dick. What are you saying?
It might have been a tough week to find them in America, but it was not in Italy. And let me just give you my DOTW, and this applies everywhere, but Matt, and I promise you with everything inside me, the driving in Italy is the worst I've ever I won't say participated in, but been a passenger for. And the cab drivers, that's my Dick of the Week. Those crazy cab drivers in Italy, Rome especially. Rome was terrible. Anybody, especially an American, a tourist who's been there will know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's twofold, right? It's not just the safety component. I'll get to the other part. You get in this thing, they are driving in the wrong lane half of the trip just in the effort to, get around traffic. They are going well above the speed limit in areas where there could be a car backing into the lane at any moment. There could be somebody walking through the streets. It's one of the most busy cities in all the world with the tourism. They run stop signs like they're not even there. And I actually saw a video where somebody said in Italy with traffic, the rules, the laws, they're more like suggestions. That's how their drivers treat things. They're not so much hard and fast. It's a suggestion. The problem is a lot of those independent thinkers, I mean, they take their liberties and they take them very much so as suggestions. Well, if everybody's doing that, you've got mass chaos. And that's what it was. It was the most unsafe passenger experience I've ever had. And then at the end of him driving, this one in mind that I have, this damn cab driver, he drops us off. He probably took us 10 minutes, which in Rome was, I don't know how many miles. I mean, he shortened the trip up a lot with his approach, we'll put. Then it's €50. €50 for the one ride. And
Holy.
yeah, we took plenty of cabs in other places. None of them that rate. None of them that scary. So it's a well-earned DOTW. Those Italian cab drivers don't. It's not all of them, right? I understand, but the one or two that I had, and I hope somebody out there will hear this and be like, "Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about, dude." Because you just look around. I mean, this is a thing. It's a thing, and you just have to experience to know what I'm talking about. But you're lucky that I'm here. Let's put it that way. At least in one piece.
Do you think maybe that was the factoring in the price? Because, oftentimes we find ourselves paying north of $50 to go to a theme park, an amusement park, get that adrenaline rush. Like, I love this ride, but I might not make it out of this. Maybe that's what he was thinking. He's like, I got you from point A to B, but also you got a little thrill, a little rumble in your nuts.
That's the crazy thing is you would assume, oh, maybe he's trying to like do me a favor, because sometimes you get in those cabs and it's got the meter and it logs as more and more time goes by. You think, oh, he's just trying to make the trip shorter, so we know he's not just dicking around and letting that price roll. No, this was an unmetered cab, which was the first mistake, because anytime there's not a meter in there, they're kind of you're at the liberty of whatever they want to say at the end of the trip or at the beginning of the trip. And so I don't get it. I really don't. And that was one of the last cabs I took, and it was the last one during a busy time of day. And it was because of everything I've already explained. So just something to keep in mind. I'm going to do a listener out there a favor who may be planning to go over there at some point in their life. If you're in Rome, avoid the cab. There's other ways. Use the metro. Use a bus. Whatever. Do not get in one of the expensive cabs right there by the airport. Mistake of your life.
Very good to know. Find myself. I don't know if you've ever played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. I believe Rome was one of the, maybe in Pro Skater 2, one of the locations. So maybe a skateboard would be a good method of transportation.
All right. That will do it for this worst to first. If you made it to the end, we appreciate you. Appreciate your support. Make sure you're liking, subscribing, unsubscribing, and doing it all over again, helping us push it forward each and every week. And yeah, we're going to continue to see what we can uncover, new guests, the whole nine, and stay live in that comment section too. We love it. Even the haters, it's fine. It's fine. Built tough. We're ready. Adios.